Hello, my name is Tracy Savage. I'm the academic head of the UK programmes at BARBRI. I am a qualified solicitor and I qualified into a commercial firm many years ago now, and for almost 30 years now I've been involved in legal education, so training lawyers both from undergraduate level right up to post-qualification training. What I'm going to talk about today is what's involved in the SQE1 assessment. Now, before I talk about the SQE1 assessment itself, I just want to take a couple of moments to talk about what the SQE is itself. So the SQE is the new national licensing exam. So it stands for Solicitors Qualifying Exam, and all people who want to qualify as a solicitor in England and Wales, from whatever background they come from, so whether they're apprentices, whether they've done a law degree, whether or not they're foreign lawyers, they will all have to sit and pass the SQE to be able to qualify as a solicitor in England and Wales. There are a little bit of transitional periods for people who've already started on their qualification route, but ultimately the SQE will end up being the route into the profession. So as I said, it's a national licensing exam. So that's very different to the existing situation for how lawyers qualify in this country, because at the moment, various different providers set their own exams to qualify people into the profession. This is going to be one national exam, which will be administered by Kaplan on behalf of the SRA, our regulatory body. And so everyone will be sitting the same assessments to be able to qualify. The SQE is actually in three parts: the SQE1 exam, which I'll be talking about in a moment, and also the SQE2, which will be the subject of another talk, and then also qualifying work experience, known as QWE. And to be admitted, you will have to pass SQE1 exam, SQE2 exam, and also obtain qualifying work experience. And then you apply to the SRA to be admitted as a solicitor, and you also have to show that your character and suitability is acceptable to be a solicitor, which usually isn't a problem for most people, so long as you don't have any criminal convictions in the past. So let's talk about what actually is involved in the SQE1 exam. So it is a multiple choice exam. It's administered, as I said, by Kaplan, and the fees for the exam will be £1,558. So if you go to a provider to have a prep course for the SQE1 exam, you will have to pay those exam fees separately because they are paid to this examining body, to Kaplan. And the SQE1 exam assesses what's called the functioning legal knowledge, and I'll talk about what that covers in a moment. But it's a multiple choice exam. There are 360 questions spread over 2 days, and each day, the 180 questions, is split into 2 sessions of questions. So you have one 90 question exam in the morning and then another one in the afternoon. You have 153 minutes for each 90 question section. So that's about 1 minute 42 seconds per question to work through. And then there's a 60-minute break, and then you will have the next 90 question assessment. So there's an awful lot to get through in a very small amount of time. The exams are done on a computer. You do get a countdown, so you know how much time you've actually got left on your screen, and you can go back and review questions before you submit the whole exam. But once you've submitted your exam, you can't then go back and review the questions, so you want to be very careful before you press submit at the very end of the exam. There is no set pass mark for this exam, so unlike the current methods for people who've come through a law degree or a GDL and then done the legal practice course, where the pass mark is 50% for the legal practice course, there will be no set pass mark for this exam. Instead, it's more like the sort of A-level style exam, where post the exam, then the examining body looks at the results and looks at what would be expected as a standard for a solicitor on day one of their career as a solicitor. And so the pass mark will vary from exam to exam. Currently, it's a similar situation for the Qualified Lawyers Transfer Test, MCT, which will swap into the SQE over the next year. But on that multiple choice exam, the pass mark tends to vary between about 57 and 60% every time. So it might be a similar pass mark. We'll have to wait and see when the exam actually starts. As I said, it's a computer-based assessment, and you choose an answer from 5 answers. So there are 5 choices, A to E, and you have to choose the best answer that is there. So that means you've got to read your question and answer very, very carefully, because there can be some answers which are correct, but they're not as correct as the best answer. So they might only show that 1 condition has been satisfied and you need to satisfy 2 conditions for that particular rule of law to apply, or whatever. And the exam will be testing not just your legal knowledge, but there also will be questions there that test your understanding and your application of the law to a small fact-based situation as well. So they're not just legal questions. Usually there is some background, some facts that you have to read before you actually get to the question itself. And then you'll often be advising a client as to what is the best answer for them in that particular situation. And also the exams, the questions can test multiple areas of knowledge. So you could have a question in dispute resolution, which also requires you to understand tort as well, to be able to identify the cause of action that could be relevant in that dispute resolution question. So they're going to be relatively complex questions for multiple choice questions. Also, each question, each answer should be what's called an acceptable distractor. So by that, it should be an answer that is, you can't immediately discount it. It should be an answer that is feasible if you've made a mistake in reading the question or your understanding of the law. So you can't just look through it and immediately cross out 3 of the questions because they're nothing to do with that particular area of law or practice. So they are going to be quite tough exams to actually get through. So what's actually covered in the functioning legal knowledge? So if you have a look at what it says there, you can see that it's a huge area that you're going to be examined on. So you're going to be examined on business law and practice, including tax, dispute resolution, contract, tort, the legal system of England and Wales, constitutional and admin law, and legal services. That will be in the first day of assessment. So the left-hand column on that slide is all examined in one of the exams, i.e. one day with split into 2 90-question morning and afternoon sessions. The second day, you'll be examined in property practice, including tax, wills and administration of estates, solicitors' accounts, land law, trusts, and criminal law and practice. And ethics and professional conduct can come up in and will come up in either stroke both of the days. So any of those 4 sessions of multiple choice questions that you get will include some ethics and professional conduct questions. So what you're examined on is what is currently part of a qualifying law degree and also part of the current compulsory sections of the legal practice course. So it's the academic areas of law, things like contract, tort, public, land, trusts and equity, but also practical issues as well. So advising the client dispute resolution, so that's the proceedings in court, and how you actually bring proceedings, what you'd be filing, the work that you'd be doing in the defence, that sort of thing. In property, you're going to be looking at the conveyancing practice, so not just land law, but also the conveyancing practice of how to actually draft all of those documents, all of the searches that you need to do, and so on, to be able to properly buy property or sell property on behalf of a client. So that's a huge amount of knowledge that you have to actually have in your head at any particular time. As I said, these are two separate exams, day one and day two. You have to take both exams in the same sitting. So you can't take day one in one sitting and then day two in another sitting. You have to be taking them both together, and you also have to pass both exams. So the marks are not added together and then there's one composite mark. Instead, there will be a pass mark for the first day and a pass mark for the second day, and you have to achieve the pass mark in both of those. However, it's a pass-fail exam, so there's no commendation or distinction. You simply have to achieve that pass mark. If you fail one of those exams, you will be able to resit just the exam that you have failed rather than have to resit both exams. And you will have two further attempts within a 6-year period to actually retake the part of the exam that you actually failed. But you can't have to just do a quarter of the exam. You can't just have to do, say, the morning of the day one. It will be the whole of the day one exam or the whole of the day two exam that you would have to resit if you failed one of them. And when can you actually sit these exams? So they will be sat in May and November of every year. The first exam comes in next November, so November 2021, and there will then be one in the May of the following year. It is possible that more dates will be added in for assessment, but we don't know that yet. So at the moment, we can only say that they're definitely going to be running in November and May of every year, starting in November 2021. You can sit them worldwide because you sit them at a Pearson View Centre. So that's the sort of place that you might have done, for example, your driving theory test in. So you can book into doing your assessment at any of those Pearson View Centres that are offering the assessment. So that will be widely available throughout the UK and also in other countries as well. So that gives you the opportunity to be able to do them without having to travel. And there is no requirement for you to have actually done a qualifying law degree or to have done any law study before you do the exam. You have to have a degree or a degree equivalent to be admitted as a solicitor, but it doesn't have to be in law. We are running preparation courses that will prepare you whether or not you're a law graduate or whether or not you're a non-law graduate for the SQE1 exam. And to be honest, it doesn't matter whether you've done a law degree or you haven't done a law degree, because even if you've done a law degree, you won't have covered all of the areas that will be assessed. You can find some examples of questions that could be asked in this type of exam on our website, and you can also find more details of our courses to prepare you for the SQE1 exam on our website. Thank you very much.